Hello, everybody. Welcome to this stream where we have a Leeds United win to discuss. Those are always the best days because Leeds United have overcome Everton in what was a pretty damn good performance. It made me very, very happy. It was good to see us do very well. First of all, I would like to see if I am audible, so I'm just very quickly gonna double check that if it wants to behave. Never mind, I could just be invisible. That's okay. Yeah, Leeds United won fairly comfortably. I say fairly comfortably. Fairly confusingly. I say fairly comfortably. Okay, for some reason I think that started the stream a little bit late. So hello everyone, Leeds United have won. That's how I'm going to start things. But yeah, I think we need to address the controversial part first, and then we'll get on to the rest of it, because we all know what sort of happened. We all know the situation as it unfolded, and we're going to discuss it a little bit, because I think there are a couple of little bits that need to be addressed around it. Because I think various people, including Everton fans, have different opinions on it. And I think that needs to be talked about. Because if it isn't talked about, then we're kind of missing out. So if I just search Leeds versus Everton, go to here, I'll try and find the right point. Okay, cool. So, this isn't immediately going to start at the right point in the video. That's okay. But if I go over to here, I agree, move on after, but I would like to prove some Everton fans wrong because I want to. But ball comes in, this is the wrong point, so I'm going to get an idea. So that's the handball incident. Whether or not you think it's handball is up to you, but we're going to have an actual look through about what actually happened with this. And then Lucas Mecha steps up into the corner. Beautiful. Right, let's go Control Tab, because I have very deliberately found the rules of the game for this section, and I'm going to be properly looking through them, because I think if you're not properly looking through them, then you're making a mistake. So, let's have a quick look. The bit that we are specifically paying attention to is A, the upper boundary of the arm is in line with the bottom of the armpit, okay? Not every touch of a player's hand or arm with the ball is an offence. This is fine, this much is known. And one of the big complaints that I've seen from Everton fans is it wasn't low on the arm, etc, 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 all this kind of bollocks. However, if we just sort of, hold on, that's gone wrong. There we go. If we just sort of pan across here, and we pull up a pencil, and we draw a nice little line, and we make it a very, very thin line. Okay, so if we zoom in a bit, you can see that that t-shirt line is here. Anything above here is green. This area is completely fine if the ball touches him here. However, from here downwards isn't. And considering I've just like coloured around the ball very clearly, it's hit the lower part of the arm. That bit isn't a question. That's okay. It's hit his arm. That's what matters here. Now, we got to look at the rest of the rule. We'll ignore that I've done that again, because for some reason Canva hates me sometimes. Right. It is an offence if a player deliberately touches the ball with their hand/arm. Now, this is where it gets a little bit complicated. The bit that most people have pointed to and said that, well, he's not done that, so it's not handball, is the bit around making their body unnaturally bigger, right? This bit. This bit, we can agree, hasn't happened, because he's not made his body bigger. Instead, he's gone, I'll try and put myself in the right place. Instead, he's gone, oh, let's try and pull that away a bit. So that's fine, he's not made his body bigger. But the bit that matters is this bit. Deliberately touches the ball with their hand or arm. Now, if you can tell me in what world this man has not deliberately touched the ball and it's touched their hand or arm because he's moved his hand or arm towards the ball, baffling. And he just needs to fill in one of these criteria. It's not like you need to do 3 of the things on the list and then that's handball. No, he's done the thing. That is handball, and he's done the thing in the box. Therefore, penalty. The number of people I've seen say, no, it's not a penalty because X, Y, Z reasons. Shut up. Like, come on. Look, it's below the t-shirt line, without a doubt. And when it comes to the movement towards the ball, I'm going to pull up a little bit of Monday Night Football for you. This is James Tarkowski. This is Anton Stack, right? Shot comes this way, fine. If you want to tell me that what Tarkowski is doing here, is not deliberate movement towards the football, then I don't know what to do. And you can see from here as well, this is the frame where it makes contact. It's still below the t-shirt line. I can't zoom in any further, but it's below the t-shirt line. And you can visibly see Tarkowski's movement is towards the ball. And he knows that if he's blocking it with anything, he's blocking it with his arm. It's a handball. And all of this controversy that's surrounding the entire thing is making so many people sort of say, well, Leeds United didn't deserve to win because they weren't going to score if that didn't happen. And it's like, cool, you can say that for any game of football. You can say, well, if he didn't kick the ball in the back of the net, his team weren't going to win, so that doesn't really count. Like, no, but that was a foul. That is a foul. That is a penalty. And I think we can shut down all of the conversation surrounding that now because it is blatant. There isn't a question mark around it. It just is a penalty. And the amount of people are like, let's make this a talking point. What are you talking about? No. It was so obvious. And I don't understand it, and I'm not going to try to understand it anymore because we have the rest of a very, very, very good game of football to discuss. Because we were very, very good. And I really enjoyed basically everything that we did in that game. And I'm going to start with something that I noticed and I discussed on Jer's Big Up stream last night. And I was sort of like, this was genuinely very, very impressive of Leeds. So let's talk about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm very quickly going to pop together, if it lets me, a bunch of bits. Cool. To make it actually look quite pretty, because I like it when it looks pretty when I do some talking about tactics and stuff. So if I'm going to ping back over to monitor 2, which is this one, right? I'm just going to build what the team was looking like, which was less of a straight 4-3-3 and more of a 4-1-4-1, because Ampadu was always holding in that slightly deeper position. He was being a bit Calvin, and I enjoyed that. That was very nice. And then Piroe was also doing a lot more dropping in, but I'm not going to consider him like part of this line because he was significantly higher than that. But something that I really, really liked was what we were doing out of possession, without the ball. Because typically, I'm going to get a text box very quickly, actually. And I'm just going to label everyone. So this might be one moment. My apologies. And then we'll go, you are a centre-back. You are also a centre-back. You are a left back. In fact, I'm just going to assign all of these and I will fill them in when I get there, if that's okay. Also, if you can hear screaming outside, it's the neighbours' children, because they are never very quiet, which is a little bit of a shame. But we'll get there, right? Let's push that there, let's push that there. And let's push that there. Right, okay, so we've got our striker, we've got our central midfielder, we've got our other central midfielder, we've got our left winger, we've got our right winger, and we've got our defensive midfielder. Why not? Okay, so typically, when it comes to being out of possession, last season, what we tended to do was have, and this is the last season one. Come on, behave. Let me pan right. There we go. Cool. What we would tend to do is see our right winger and our left winger would push up the pitch a bit to become part of the press, and central midfielders would drop in, right? Which is fine. That's sort of normal. That's what you expect teams to do when they're without the ball. It's a little bit safe, but it makes sure that you're not really under that much of a threat. However, did things a little bit differently yesterday, and I was a big fan of it. So I'm going to copy this again, I'm going to paste this again, and I'm going to move this again to down here so no one gets confused. So what we did instead was, I'm going to make the spaces between everyone a little bit bigger. Your defensive midfielder still played in a defensive role, because obviously they are, because that's what a defensive midfielder does. However, whilst normally you'd expect the central midfielders to drop into that space and do the defensive work, things went a bit differently. You had you're a right back. You had your right winger dropping into here, and you had your left winger dropping into here. What this effectively did, and this was genuinely a really effective part of the way that we played defensively, as well as having your centre-backs come out a bit, was it meant that when it came to being attacked, and I'm going to do so by using a red marker this time, when it came to being attacked, and you've, say, got the opposing fullback, you've got the opposing winger. You got the opposing fullback, and you got the winger there. Cool. Was instead of being in a position where you are just constantly at risk and your centre-backs are deeper but your wingers are far too high and that's a big problem, instead you've got an immediate opportunity to, if the winger pushes up, you're just instantly doubled up on. Which means that there isn't a threat in those wide areas and they've got to try and force it through the middle, but they can't force it through the middle because you've got your central midfielders that are able to be quite dynamic and mobile, because Stack is a quick bastard. Tanaka is a quick bastard, so they can't force it through here either. So they're forced to try and like do some quite clever, thinky things, and that's why when Ampadu was off for a few minutes, I say a few minutes, for a bit, he was clearly off it for a while after being kicked quite hard. But when Ampadu sort of wasn't quite as good and there weren't as many sort of pieces on the board for us, you saw Piroe has to drop a bit deeper, because whilst Ampadu was technically here, he wasn't quite as good because he was struggling with that little bit of an injury niggle, and I think that was sort of really beneficial for us to have Ampadu there. Ampadu doing effectively the same job as what Calvin Phillips did when we were last in the Premier League was a very big part of us getting the 3 points last night. He shut them down very consistently, and this isn't taking anything away from Tanaka and Stack either, because what they did was, and I'm going to sort of restructure this, I'm going to move this up a little bit. Never mind, I've detached it from the goalkeeper. There we go. Move that out of the way. But what it would eventually come to is they were playing a sort of 4-3-3. So if we consider this, they're 3 in midfield. And then paste, and then paste. Was when it came to the press, they had 4 players at the back. Which meant that instead of Piroe being the one that presses everywhere and here, there, and that doesn't necessarily work because Piroe isn't quite the best at that. And it means that you don't have Dan James that is trying to force himself to press all over the pitch. And it means that you've not got Willy Gnonto doing that, which means that we're not dragging ourselves out of position. Instead, you've got Anton Stack at points leading the press, joined by Joel Piroe, which Tanaka is able to deal with that very effectively. And with these two missing out on their spaces, if someone moves into this area, well, that's fine. We've already got the fullback pinned in. And that's where for some reason that's gone very wrong, that's where your right winger pushes in. Because we know that there is no one attacking this position, because that's been dealt with by Stack or Tanaka. On what Richard said down below, sorry, I normally tend to point towards where people are, but I'm in the wrong place right now. Yeah, Stack effectively filled in as a left-back really effectively a lot of the time. I say filled in as a left-back. He did what we tended to do last season anyway, which is you've got a winger, you've got a left-back, but you add one of the midfielders and it becomes a really nice little passing triangle that goes on. And that was really effective too. And it meant that they just didn't have space to operate, whereas in the same spaces, with the same number of people there, we were, because we were always offering ourselves that one extra option. So that shape that we've got out of possession right now is also really beneficial when we're in possession. Plus the in possession stuff. In fact, I'm going to pull back to this one. And I'm going to make another. Right, in possession. I'm going to change that to right back properly. You would see both your fullbacks would absolutely push on and would apply so much pressure to the point that the other sides just didn't know what to do. So your fullbacks are ridiculously high. You've got your centre-backs would pull a little bit wider just to allow Ampadu to drop in and be that third option. So when we're passing the ball around the back, it's not just centre-back to centre-back to centre-back to centre-back. It's centre-back to Ampadu. Ampadu looks for a pass into midfield. Is it there? No. Okay, we'll play it to Struijk. Is there something on to Gudmundsson? If not, that's fine. We can look to the midfield. We can look to Ampadu. We can look here. And we had so many options in terms of finding the right ball to really build ourselves an opportunity to get those 3 points yesterday and make the most of all of our attacks. They worked really effectively. So with these central midfielders coming wide, it also meant that their back line was dragged in this direction to deal with the fact that there was a pretty heavy overload, and you would just see your other central midfielder move across, just to sort of say, right, okay, if the ball comes out of here, we're on the second ball. And the number of second balls that we won yesterday was ridiculous. We were absolutely everywhere, and there was nothing that they could do about it. And then with everything being stacked over here, your right back gets drawn across as well. You move your left winger in a bit to sort of receive a ball. The right back follows, and then suddenly Gudmundsson has a shitload of space where he can attack the byline. And I think if we're able to follow this consistently week in, week out, then we're in a very good position going forwards. Because what we've effectively done is we've built ourselves a position where no matter what we are doing, we're creating plenty of chances for ourselves. And when it comes to a counter-attack, we've already got a very nice and solid structure. And even when the game is sort of stacked over in this area, it's not just a case of, well, the left wing-back has to make that run to the byline. Because if the ball gets turned over, which is going to happen from time to time, we need to acknowledge that, then Gudmundsson is a quick enough player to say, right, Rodon, you come across. Ampadu, you come across. Struijk, cover this gap. Gudmundsson can make it back in time. And it means that we've still got that solid enough defensive structure, even when we lose the ball, because even in spite of the fact that we throw everything forwards in attack, it's very easy and quick to transform into that defensive structure again. And I think, yeah, sure, Joe Rodon, not your ideal right back, but can he fill in and do just the defensive part of that role? Absolutely he can. Can Ampadu be a little bit of a centre-back when he's needed to? Yeah, we've seen that season after season after season. And it just means that we're in a far more comfortable position this year than we were when we were getting countered last year, because we're sort of consciously considering we'll need to do... That was a fun hiccup, sorry about that. We'll need to do more of that defensive work as a part of the sort of day-to-day. It's not just throw everything at it because we need a goal against Plymouth. It's, we know that Everton are going to be a threat. We know that Arsenal are going to be a threat. We know that after that, Newcastle are going to be a threat. All of the teams that we play against will have plenty of attacking threat to them, except maybe Burnley, because Burnley are just bad. So we're throughout being like, we're going to have to do defending, and we've got that defensive structure and shape in mind before any of it has to happen, which is really nice. It's a good position to be in. When it comes to questions like who the man of the match was, I love that that is a question that is really hard to answer right now. Because for me, the majority of that first 11 could have reasonably been considered our man of the match. I'll have a quick look. I'll go to yesterday on SofaScore. I'll have a look at what sort of scores it gave people, because I've not checked this yet. But I'm a little bit curious. I'm checking the statistics, by the way. Blew them out of the water. 3 big chances, 21 total shots to their 7. Keeper only had to make one save. 95 sprints for us against 85 for them, so we're outrunning them. 7 corners to 2, so we're out-cornering them. Also, ideally, I don't know how good he is. Hold on. Does... I don't know if Noah Okafor takes set pieces, but if he does, I'm going to be very, very happy. Because, Jesus Christ, I want Anton Stack in the box. Because when it came to the defensive headers, Anton Stack was always the guy that was underneath it and getting it clear and making sure that everything was fine. The issue is you've not got that threat at the other end of the pitch because Anton Stack is the one taking the set piece. And I know that this is something that people are very, very concerned about, and I completely understand that. But it's something that will get resolved with our remaining signings, in my opinion. Anton Stack will not, for the entire season, be our set piece taker. Stack does very much look like a Thunder Bastard kind of guy, and that one save was very, very good. I'll see if I can bring it up on the highlights without potentially getting myself demonetized, which would be absolutely lovely. All right, first half, second half, it might be this one. It is this one, yes. Okay, so these threats, and I'm talking from the perspective of a goalkeeper right now, are the ones that are a little bit spooky to deal with. Because you see Lucas Perry here. I'm circling him. I don't know how visible that circling is, but I'm circling him. And here you are in the position of, do I cover my post or do I cover the cross? Because the moment a cross comes in, you're in trouble. But you've got to cover. You've got to sort of rely on your back line, because if you don't, you're in even more issues. And this shot is not an easy shot to save. It's coming through Rodon, which adds another little layer of difficulty. At least I think that's Rodon. It looks like Rodon. No, it's not. It's Stack. It comes through Stack. And I have always been sort of the proponent of the hardest shot to save is the one that you get down to rather than go up to. Because it's harder to sort of, like, when you're going down to a ball, the limit that you are dealing with is gravity. You can only go down as fast as gravity lets you, whereas you can go up as far as your feet can let you. But he gets down to it really nicely and quite cleverly, and this isn't the best angle, so I'll see if there is another one. There is. Okay, cool. Right. Shot fired. It's very blurry. I'm sorry about that, but that shows how hard the shot was. But what you can see here is you can see not one glove, but two glove. A lot of the time, when a ball is being drilled right into the corner and you're thinking, I don't know if I get to that, you'll chuck one arm down and hope that you get there. Perry doesn't just get his closer arm to it, he gets the other arm sort of to scoop, which means that if one arm isn't strong enough, the second is at least going to get a little bit of deflection on it. And whilst it's, like, not the cleanest of stops, it gets rid of the ball. And that's what matters there. And it's one of those saves that you have to make because it's going to build confidence. He's like, yeah, come on. Let's go, Pascal. Which is a really, really nice shot. Not shot. Nice stop. Can you show Piroe effort in the first half, please? The one he should score, it's not even on highlights. Ball comes across, tries with the right foot, messes it up. Ball goes in the air, ball will get something on it. But is offside. I can't quite remember it, and I don't know what time it would be, which would make it quite hard to find. I can do my best. It might be on LUTV. So I'll give it a look. If I'm not able to find it, my deepest apologies. If you can find the minute it is, I can give it a look. Yeah, there we go. Shush, that'll do. Right. I'll have a look for it as well myself. Would it have gone down as a shot for Piroe? Not that one. No. Would it be that? Had to deal with some wheelchair maintenance. Have I missed much? A little bit. You've missed the fact that it was definitely a handball. We've gone through the laws of the game in order to establish that it was. And the fact that we were just really good in terms of shape, in terms of structure, in terms of performance, and I really, really liked it. A couple of Willie's decisions weren't great, but will get better. There were a couple he should have passed to Piroe, and Piroe probably would have scored. Yeah, it's the reason I'm looking forward to assigning Okafor, which is now just around the corner. I might do a stream or video or something based on that, because I think that sort of needs to be discussed. But I think Okafor is going to be quite useful for us, right? Piroe had a shot on the 20th. Shush. Right. Sorry, I'm gonna have to skip through and I can't show you what I am looking at because problems. Right, that ends in an offside, so it might be the one that you mean. So I'm gonna flick it over very quickly. And I'm not gonna show it for long because that will get me a copyright strike. That one. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if that's one that he should be scoring specifically because it feels quite harsh to say that. Because ball comes in and it is behind him, which makes it quite hard to get a proper foot on. So I'd make the point that because it did go down as a shot. I agree that he maybe could have done better with it, but at the same time, the ball's behind him. It's quite hard to sort of reach back and put it in the direction in front of you. So I'm going to give him a little bit of leeway on that one. Just because you know what, he's earned it. I'm not going to be too critical of any of the team from yesterday because it was a really good result. Like a lot of people will look at the league and go, "Oh, we scraped a point. We not scraped a point. We scraped a win there," and it's like, well, not really, because underlying numbers we did really, really well. Underlying numbers we were fantastic. In terms of XG, even without the penalty, we beat them fairly comfortably. Like how much XG was the penalty? 0.79. So I'll take 0.79 off 1 point. Without the penalty, it's 1.34 to 0.8. We took 21 shots, they took 7. I think we're very good. It's just about doing a little bit more finishing. It is a decent chance, absolutely it is. But I think it's one of those where it's a little bit harsh to say, like, you definitely should be doing better. Because we did have other players with similarly good chances that didn't get in the back of the net. What else is it considering a good chance from that match then? So I don't know if that goes down as one. Because there's the Metcha one. I don't know. I can't work it out. I'm guessing the Metro and the Piroe one. Sod it. I'm going to do a quick search. What does SofaScore consider a big chance? High quality scoring opportunity where a player is reasonably expected to... No, sod it. I'm going to go to the actual SofaScore Twitter to find that out. Amps was close to having a broken ankle. He did a bit, yes. But then again, he did also, and this was one of my favourite highlights from the game. I'm going to go to the Leeds Twitter for it. He did also prove that we've not really got any fear going into this season. Why have hiccups kicked in? What's going on? It's so annoying. Right, anyway. So ball comes out. You're like, oh no, what are we going to do? We're in trouble here. Kane and Dewsbury Hall. You can smell the fact that Ampadu is out for blood on this one. Ampadu's like, right, you're not leaving your third, and I will leave you in a heap. And I don't care whether it's a foul or not. I will leave you in a heap, and it will be fun. And smack into him. Know what you're going to do about it. Whereas the one on Ampadu, yes, that one was incredibly late, and I feel like we're a little bit lucky that it wasn't anything particularly worse for Ampadu, because it was a pretty nasty tackle. DJ got stung to and got nothing for it. Yeah, that was weird. That was because even right, because the commentary team that we had, and I'm sure a lot of people that aren't me will have noticed this, weren't one of the Premier League commentary teams. It was the Championship commentary team from last season, which was a little bit depressing because I was like, maybe we won't have the same people. Maybe we'll have a little bit of a change and it'll be lovely. No, we didn't have a change. It wasn't lovely. It was just the same commentary all over again. And even those commentators who aren't typically pro-Leedsy were sort of like, oh, well, I could talk about it, but it's just a foul. It's just plain and simple a foul, isn't it? And I quite appreciated that because it was like, right, okay, we're not losing our minds. Very clearly, that was just a kick through Dan James. He's done it on purpose, and for some reason they've come out of it with the ball. And the responses that I have seen online were so insane. So if I go to the main sort of subreddit for football, which is like football Twitter, but slightly less insane. And I find the Metro goal. There we go. The responses are astounding. Where is his arm supposed to go? What more can Tark do there? Genuinely. And everyone's like, nothing, you've been served the PGMOL special. And it's like, did you watch the rest of the match? It was just poor refereeing. And he has actively moved his arm towards the ball. Like, what was he supposed to do with his arm? I don't know, not block a shot with it? Like, I mean, come on. And whilst it's one that would be quite... I would feel hard done by if it was against us, but it's a pen. It kind of is. So I think the head loss that we've found from other fan bases online is, in my opinion, quite funny. I've enjoyed it. And it's sort of meant that we've immediately come back with that reputation of Leeds being Leedsy, and I enjoy it. Leedsy in the challenging people, leaving them looking like this kind of way, more than anything else, because it was a beautiful tackle. If it was given, I wouldn't have complained. It's one where I would have gone, he's tried to move his arm out of the way, but also I would probably be mad at our defender for actively moving towards the ball and still blocking a shot with their arm, because that's how penalties work. Even if you go in, if you go in for a slide tackle and you clip someone late, it's still a foul. You've not done it on purpose, but it's still a foul. There is nothing about, like, has it deliberately hit the hand for handball? Nothing. Also, update for you on a story that we have not been linked with for a little while, but Rodrigo Muniz is now seemingly heading in the direction of Atalanta for 40 million euros. Financial side of that seems to be agreed. Bosh. So that would be a no on Rodrigo Muniz. The tackle on KDH was a fuck you in particular, and it was glorious. It was so nice. It was like a, oh yeah, you got promoted before us, did you? Here's what you've forgotten in the time where you've been sat on Chelsea's bench. And there was something a little bit delicious about that. It was very nice. We deserved the win. Everton didn't deserve anything. Yeah, I think that's specifically what Moyes said as well. So if I have a look back at Baron's Twitter, and we head over to monitor 2. There we go. Moyes, it's not a penalty. Seeing the referee, he left it with VAR. We didn't play well enough, but the frustration is we looked more likely to score in the second half. I wasn't impressed in how we played, and we didn't deserve anything. Effectively, Moyes thinks that it's not affected the result. Moyes thinks that they weren't good enough. Got to give credit to Leeds, they were incredibly intense. This is good. We played into their hands, but they were a handful. We defended their corner kicks well. I think if there's one taller boy in there, that would be lovely, but that's not happened. Got better after the break, but not enough to warrant anything. Essentially, we deserved the 3 points, and the fact that it's come through a slightly controversial penalty that I think is still a penalty isn't our problem. It's a problem for Everton to deal with and PGMOL to deal with, which is good and nice and stuff. Now, I'm going to ask another quick question, right? And because I was going to do a fairly long stream right now anyway, but I've popped a poll in the chat just to see if you guys have an interest in doing a very quick Okafor stream. Because I was planning on doing a video or something on it, but I'm thinking if I can do it in the format of a stream, you guys can stick around too, and we can talk things over. As the ball was going directly towards the goal, then for me it's a pen. Yeah, that contributes as well, because he has blocked a shot on target with his arm by leaning into the ball. Like, all of those factors sort of build and go, yeah, that's probably a penalty. Yeah, he's definitely gained an advantage by doing that, so. Right, let's Be that one. It's 100% yes at the moment. Thank you very much, guys. Next week, guys, will eye context of just how good we were or just how bad Everton were. Not next weekend. I have no illusions. That'll be a tough one. Yeah, that's one I imagine that we lose. And it's one that I imagine if we lose, everyone will lose their heads about. But we don't need to lose our heads. Because Everton are the rough sort of Premier League standard. They are sort of a mid-table Premier League side. And the fact that we're sort of jumping to... Hold on. And the fact that people will immediately jump to, we've been battered by Arsenal, and it's like everyone gets battered by Arsenal. Well, not everyone gets battered by Arsenal, but Arsenal tend to beat everyone. So that's not exactly one that I'm going to complain about. Is that a decent quality image? That is probably a decent enough quality image. Paste you there. Bosh, make you bigger. And do a cheeky little background remove as well. Okafor confirmed, and then I will download. Sorry, I'm just doing the thumbnail for this. Shouldn't take too long. We'll go live, schedule stream, create new, no. Discussing Leeds' new winger signing. And then change that to that one. Open, Bosh, next, and I will set that at that will do. Done. Cool. So I've done chatting about the various bits and the various bobs around the match yesterday. I'm going to redirect people over to discuss the transfer newsy story from earlier, which is 7 points from the first 3 games. 7 points from the first 3 games would be insanity. I do not see that happening. But if it did, I'm not complaining. What I'm going to do is I'm going to redirect over to there to do the Okafor stream, just because I want to keep things segmented a little bit if I can. And then from that point, I'm going to redirect everyone over to Mr. Wayneman at 2 o'clock, because he's got a stream going as well. So, sod it. We move. So let's sort out that redirect. Bosh, save, cool. So I'm going to bring the stream to a close, and then I'll see you over there in like 2 minutes, if that's okay, because I need a quick wee. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you in a couple of minutes.